noticed that I've been gone for quite a while. You also might notice that I'm in a new studio. So due to some personal circumstances that I don't really want to get into on here, I had to move back home to Alabama with my partner, and we're now in his, or what was his mother's house. It's taken us quite a while to get set up here, but I'm adjusting and happy to have this studio. The light in here is really good, and I've been making work here and there. So I guess I want to give you guys a little bit of an update on my new space, show you what I've been making, and maybe start a new project. So yeah, thanks for being patient with me. Sorry I've been gone so long, but shit happens sometimes. And making YouTube videos for fun kind of drops to the bottom of the priority list when that shit happens. So, I guess, let's get into it. I just finished this, what I'm calling a soft loom. This is made from icord that a really long length of icord that I knit back in graduate school. I had it installed in my thesis show in a much different format, and I've kept it all of these years and not really known what to do with it. So essentially I wove that in between these stuffed noodles that I like quilted. So I wove this icord in between each of the noodles and then used that to weave small bits of yarn all throughout the icord. After weaving it in and out between these noodles, you know, it's pretty taut and can be used kind of like a warp loom. I'm still thinking through what this is like doing conceptually, but I feel like these all kind of look like little people with their string bean heads. And so they're all kind of connected and bound together. I want to start another one of these today. It's going to be a little bit of a different format. I don't have this much icord, so it's going to be woven with yarn instead of the knitted icord. And we'll see what effect that has. I think I want to make several of these, several iterations of them, and see where it goes. I'm feeling like it's kind of a conceptually rich territory that I want to explore, but I'm not sure where it's gonna go yet. So I just have to keep making them, I guess. But first, let's give you a quick tour of my new studio. So this is your view when you walk in. I've got this huge table that was being used as a dining room table, but I've kind of converted it into a studio table. If I'm doing any painting on it or anything, I'll have to cover it, but for now I like the look of the wood. There's Larry down there. To the left here, I've got my books, my shipping stuff, some extra art supplies. This is my little yellow cart that I showed you guys on my last studio tour. It hasn't really changed much. Yeah, I've moved my sewing supplies into these drawers here. So that's mostly like sewing notions. I've got some sewing machine feet in here, and then the rest of it is up here. That green box has thread. That's my pin cushion with some like random needles. That's more needles. I've got some sewing clips in there, zippers, buttons, and some pins. So we've got my sewing table here. It's nice that I have two tables in the studio. I didn't in the last studio, so I can kind of have like a sewing area and then This is for like cutting fabric when I'm sewing, or if I'm drawing or painting, I'm probably going to be using this table. On the walls here, I've got some objects of interest. And then if you go to the left, this is some works in progress that I kind of hang up on the wall so I can access them easily. These are some finished paintings that I don't know what to do with yet. We've got a fabric shelf here. Another one here. I try and keep this kind of organized. The very bottom bin is all of my scraps. That floral dress is in my to mend bin, so all of my clothes that need to be repaired. This is a bunch of like apparel fabrics, some cottons, linens, some random knit stuff I found at thrift stores. Yeah, I mean, it's all pretty accessible. If I can't quickly look through it, then I probably won't use the fabric. And then this is the closet here. In my last studio, I had a closet, but it was for my clothes. So it's nice to have a storage space to put only art supplies. This is a weird noodle that I made that I think I'm gonna make into a loom today. You can see I'm just like using it as storage for other random supplies I might not use as often. I've got all of my yarn down there. Let's see. Old drawings, storage bins. More bins, more drawings. Old prints that I need to go through that I just got from my friend. She had like kept them in her house the entire time I was living in Buffalo, so thanks, Becca. This is some extra like fabric that I want to use soon. Then if we go behind this door, this is kind of like my painting station. I recently got a full-size like floor loom, so these go to that. Yeah, these are like bulk plastic containers that I saved. And I use them to mix paint in, and it stores the paint pretty well. Behind here I've got some slimes. I went through a phase after I finished my graduate degree where I was just making slime all the time because I was really depressed, and now I don't know what to do with them, so I just keep them because the color is nice to look at. I've got more paint mixing containers up here. And then under here I've got some drawers that are pretty much the same as my last studio tour. Extra supplies, paper, readings, that kind of stuff. That's the painting that I've been working on. There's the loom down there. And then I've got my red cart with more drawing supplies. It's pretty much the same as the last studio tour. And then circle back around to my desk. So that's pretty much it as far as studio stuff goes. I tried to start this loom similar to the previous one, but it didn't work as well just because it's one continuous noodle rather than a bunch of separate ones, so they were kind of fighting me. So you'll see later I had to stitch through all of them to kind of hold them together, kind of like a basting stitch, I guess, while I was doing the weaving. This that I'm showing now, I tried to weave them without that stitch holding them together, and they just were like totally fighting me, so that didn't work. Anyway, this pink really tacky satin noodle that I made is actually from a previous sculpture that I used in my thesis show, and I showed in a couple of other places after the first installation, but that sculpture had to be disassembled for practical reasons. But I did save this, and the fabric from the sculpture, but this was kind of hanging out in my closet for a long time, taking up space. I wasn't sure what to do with it, and then I started these looms, and it just seemed like a perfect solution. I had a lot easier time with the icord with the first soft loom because it is a thicker diameter. It's a lot easier to maintain tension. But just weaving with the straight yarn and having to generate the tension myself, it's harder for each warp to have the same tension for each time you're weaving through. So there were some areas where each row was kind of like overlapping itself because the tension was so uneven. But it's a learning process. About halfway through, the yarn was just kind of strung into a loose ball, and that wasn't working so well. So I decided to wrap it around a paintbrush and kind of use that as a tool to weave throughout. I didn't record the rest of me weaving the green yarn or the brown fluffy yarn here or the red, but it's just the same process of weaving, just with different yarn. This is my rope box here. I did a lot of rope work a couple of years ago. Learned all of these different knots that have continued to be useful, so I recommend teaching yourself how to knot in different ways. But I thought that the rope would be a thicker diameter like the icord, and it turned out working pretty well. It was a lot easier to maintain tension than with just like straight yarn like the green one. That red at the top is also icord, but it's a much shorter length. So I've been working on like a separate project, weaving a bunch of orange icord. It's relatively the same length, and this red one was kind of a test, and I didn't think it went with that piece, so it's just kind of extra. So it was nice to be able to use that. And the brown at the bottom, it's kind of like uncanny. It looks a bit like human hair because of the color and the sheen. That's a little disgusting, and I love it. But I really like the way this turned out. So I feel like that was a pretty productive studio vlog. I'm happy to be back in my studio working. I'll be putting out a lot more content now that I'm a little bit more settled. It did take me 2 days to finish that soft loom, hence the different appearance. But yeah, thank you for watching. I missed you guys, and I'll see you next time.